Welcome, Swagatam in computer learning series of ffbmd, that is learning computer with seeing the beautiful sights of Indian village. Here is the beautiful sights of Indian village. So, or greenery sights of Indian village. In the previous lecture, we have seen that we learn about the object oriented database and network database, and we saw its properties, characteristics, advantage, disadvantage. Now let's see the example of a object oriented database structure. Consider a class vehicle. Consider class vehicle is a root of a class composition hierarchy, including classes, vehicle, specs, company, and employee. It is also root of a class hierarchy involving classes two-wheeler and four-wheeler. So, and class company is a root of a class hierarchy with subclasses domestic company and foreign company. It is also root of a class composition hierarchy involving class employee. Now, main component of a DBMS. A DBMS allows user to organize, process, and retrieve data from a database without any need to know about underlying database structure or organization and location of database. The major components of a DBMS are data manipulation language DML, data definition language DDL, query language, and report generator. Now one by one we will discuss these components of a DBMS, database management system. So let first discuss about the data definition language, that is DDL. Database designers use data definition language DDL to define the data definition language DDL. Database designers use data definition language DDL to define the structure of a database. Database structure definition, also known as database schema, typically includes the following: organization of data elements, which is called fields, into records, also it is known as tuples, and tables. Definition of all data elements of the database. Organization of and definition of field name, field length, and field type for each data element. Users use field name to refer to a data element while accessing it. Field length defines maximum size of a data element, such as employee name field may have a maximum size of 30 characters. So common field types are alphanumeric, containing a combination of alphabetic characters, special symbols, and digit. Numeric, containing numbers formed of digit 0 to 9, a decimal point, and plus or minus sign. Date and time, containing a single date, time, or date time value. Logical, containing one of two possible values, yes or no, or true or false. Containing memo containing any type of data user might like to type, and the binary containing binary data. Definition of controls for fields that can have selective values only. For example, in an implied database, sex fields can have control to accept values male or female only. Similarly, age field can have controls to accept values 18 or more and less than 70 only. Such controls ensure correctness of input data to some extent. Definition of access controls to various tables, records and fields for different categories of users to protect sensitive data items from unauthorized users. Definition of logical relationship among various data elements of database. In short, the schema of a database includes virtually everything about the database structure. It is possible to generate a complete description of a database from its schema. Systems analysts use this description for defining new application on the database. Database administrators. Administrators are individuals who install and manage a database system and coordinate its usage. They are responsible for establishing and controlling data definition and standards, determining relationship among data elements, training and assisting application programmers in use of database, and designing database security system to guard against unauthorized use of data in the database. A database also has a data dictionary which contains data definition. It serves as a useful reference document because it contains an indexed list of all data elements of the database along with their definitions. That is, data definition language module of a DBMS creates update the data dictionary of database automatically when user define or change the database schema. Now, data manipulation language DML. Once a database designer completes defining the structure of database schema, the database is ready for entry and manipulation of data. Data manipulation language, abbreviated as CAPDML, includes commands to enable users to enter and manipulate data in a database. With these commands, users can add new records to the database, navigate through its existing records, view contents of various fields of a record, modify contents of one or more field of a record, delete an existing record and sort its records in desired sequence. Some database management systems combine data definition language and data manipulation language together, while others support them as two separate database management components. Now let's know about the query language. Although it is possible to navigate through a database one record at a time to extract some information from the database, this approach can be very inefficient and frustrating when there are thousands of records and several files in the database. Hence, all database management systems provide a query language enabling user to define their requirements as queries for extracting information from a database. For example, all an inventory database, a user may be interested in such information as list list item description and vendor name for all items whose current inventory level is less than 20 units, or list stock number and item description for all items with a profit margin greater than 25%. A query language enables proper formulation of queries for extraction of such information from a database. Earlier, each database management system has its own query language. In this approach, users were unable to use their queries developed for one database management system with other database management system. The database industry, however, came out eventually with one industry standard query language called SQL. It was originally developed by IBM and was based on an earlier query language called SEQUEL, SEQUEL, as acronym for Structured English Query Language. Today, many database management systems use SQL as the standard structured query language. A non-programmer can easily learn a query language. Hence, normal users of a database can use a query language to retrieve information from the database without the help of any programmer. The next topic in this lecture is report generator, and I think you are enjoying my video, that is learning computer with seeing the beautiful sights of Indian village, Bharatiya village. This is the Bharatiya village. You are watching these beautiful sights. Now report generator. Here is the field. Some boys are playing cricket. They like cricket, so they are playing cricket. Now let's talk about the report generator. A report is a presentation of information extracted from a database. A report generator enables a database user to define a report's format by specifying its layout. For example, the user can specify proper spacing between data items in the report and can include suitable report titles and subtitles, column heading, page numbers, separation lines and other elements, making the report more readable and presentable. The user can also instruct the report generator to perform arithmetic operations such as calculating totals and subtotals on data found in numeric field to make the report more meaningful and useful. A user can define layout of a report and then store it for later use. This facility is very useful for generating periodic reports such as generation of employee pay slips every month from an employee database, or generation of consumer bills every month from a consumer service database. The report layout format remains same every month, only data changes. Now, creating and using a database. In this section, we know about how to create and use a database. Normally, professional programmers create and maintain large database on a large computer system. User of these databases, however, need not to be a programmers. Non-programmers can use these databases easily to access data and produce report. On the other hand, many database management systems for personal computer systems enables non-programmers to not only use but even to create their own databases. Normally, these databases are simple in structure and small in size. So, creating a database requires 3 steps. First, defining its structure, which is called a schema, and then designing forms also known as custom screen for displaying and entering data, and third, entering data into it. Now let's see these steps one by one. First, a schema. To set up a database designer has to first define its structure, that is a schema definition. This is done by identifying characteristics of each field in it. A good way to begin defining a schema of a database is to list down on paper all fields that the designer can think of for inclusion in database, and then to determine the name, type and size of each field. The designer has to then use a tool called a schema builder to capture this information into the system. A schema builder enables the designer to define a database schema interactively by prompting him to enter name, type, size, etc. for each field. While defining the schema of a database, it is important to consider possible future needs and needs of all types of users of database. That is, while defining the database structure, the designer should include in it all possible field data types of users of the database. That is, while defining the database structure, the designer should include in it all possible field that all type of users of the database may need. Although it is possible to modify database structure at any time, making such modification is a time-consuming process. Hence, it is better to carefully design a database in first instance and minimize need to modify its structure later. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Sitaram, Sitaram, Jai Shri Ram. Now designing forms. After defining the structure of a database, next step is to design forms, also known as custom screens, for convenient data entry. Each form displays a set of fields of database structure with appropriate amount of blank spaces against each to enable data entry in those fields. Now let us consider such a form. To facilitate easier data entry, a designer often designs forms with many features, such as a list box for field listing the option from which user can select a choice, for example, in any list box, sex field may have a list box listing option male and female, and a user simply selects one of two options while entering and implies sex information. Depending on the option a user selects, the system enters cap M for male and cap F for female in sex field automatically. Similarly, a state field may have a list box listing all state from which a user can select an option while inputting an employee's address. And similarly may be district, village, etc. Second, simple validation checks for a field to ensure correctness of input data to some extent. For example, the designer may define a validation check for postal code field to accept only 6 numeric characters. With this, the field will not accept less than or more than 6 characters and will also not accept alphabetic or special characters. Similarly, the designer may define a validation check for age field to accept values in the range of 18 to 70 only, both inclusive. So validation checks also enables designer to force a certain character position of a field to be better or numeral. Now third point, automatic conversion of characters input by a user in certain fields to upper or lower case. For example, the designer may use this feature with a state field, the system will accept a small b, a small h for Bihar, or a small capital B, a small h, or a small b and capital H, or both capital B and H for a state code of Bihar, and will convert the entity to Bihar automatically, that is BH, capital B and capital H automatically. This feature greatly eases data entry and ensures uniformity of data. Now, automating formatting of certain fields. For example, the designer may use this feature with telephone number field to display the value of this field automatically in a specified format, like parenthesis, a space, and hyphen. At it to enter telephone number like 0205680-4892. A user needs to type 02056804892 only, and the system display in parenthesis 02056 parenthesis close 5680-4892 in that field automatically. Now entering now with this I would like to end this lecture here.